And here we see the majestic spinning of the bees in springtime. It's rare indeed to catch this dance on film, and oh, off they go, acting as if we saw nothing. Silly little bees. Hello there, and welcome to the final episode of AlphaCraft, Season 5. Let me check my notes here, but I believe this is episode 26. A lot has happened behind the scenes this season. I mean, there's been changes at work, health issues, losing my best friend. Yeah, it's safe to say it's been a rough year. But, through all that, I've managed to play a little Minecraft as well. Now, a little while ago, we decided to end the season, which sent me into panic/shutdown mode. I mean, I've heavily neglected my base this season, opting to focus on whatever spur-of-the-moment idea I had or community projects versus trying to build something fancy at the base. In a very real sense, my base is just where I store my stuff. So panic set in because I knew there was no way to come close to finishing all the ideas I had at the beginning of the season, which led to a big case of the why bothers. But I pushed my way through all those negative thoughts and tried to focus on just one of the ideas and see what I could do in the time that remained. And so, seeing as I had made all those flower farms and had tons of flowers just lying around, I thought I would maybe add some small section of flower patches and maybe extend the path out the other side of this tower. But first things first, and that's to clear all these trees out of here. Choppy, 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 chopping down the trees. Choppy, 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 as quickly as you please. Okay, so chopping trees aside, step 2 is going to be landscaping. I've always liked working with the landscape you have and just adjusted a little here and there, but clearing the trees has started to show just how much, let's call it tweaking, the landscape will need. Which brings me to another issue. A few years ago, I did the flower garden as a stained glass window project, and I learned then that the main limitation with most Minecraft flowers is how little of the block they take up. This leaves a lot of grass visible around the flower, and all that green-on-green action really takes away from the impact the flowers can have. So I'm going to use a foundational block that contrasts well with the flowers, something that really shows them off. The best options that can have flowers placed on them are mud, muddy roots, and podzol. Here you can see how much more the flowers stand out against these blocks, but even the podzol starts blending in with the petals of the flowers, which leaves mud as the best option for what I want. And that can only mean one thing. Step 2 is actually get some mud. Mud, mud, muddy mud, gotta get it, mud, mud, muddy mud, flowers need it, nothing beats it. We're back at the base, and this is where things start to quickly get out of hand. As I said at the beginning, the end of season is fast approaching, but I just wanted to get something done to show the base area a little love, and maybe something I can be happy with when people look at the world download later on. But everything this season has been done on the fly. I mean, I've obviously had ideas about what to do with the base, but nothing I came up with really grabbed my attention, which is kind of why my base is the way it is. My only real thought was, I've done flower gardens before, so I needed to make this one different somehow. The first time was a garden as a painting idea done in 1.14. I like how it made use of the natural curves of the landscape to add to the overall effect. And then a couple of years later was the garden as a 3D stained glass window project. I was really proud of this one. It made use of flowers, coral, and even nether plants. Anything that had color was put to use. So the danger of doing another garden was always, how do I make it different so I'm not just repeating myself? So this time, instead of doing some sort of artwork with it, I was thinking maybe a flower farm type of idea. Sort of like this, but without all the straight lines. In reality, everything is planted in straight lines to make them easier to plant and then gather later on. But this is Minecraft. How do we take what happens in the real world and put a different kind of spin on it? So, as you can see here, I've been a little busy. All the trees are gone, and I've covered large portions of the base in mud and flowers and extended the path from the tower to the skeleton farm. The problem I'm running into now is, where do I stop? What's the cutoff line for all this? Do I just plant a bunch of trees around the edges and fill what's left with flowers, or do I keep going until everything is covered in mud? Every time I think I'm done, I quickly find myself expanding the area out further and further, which leads to needing more paths. Like, how does anyone go out to the new areas and see the flowers, let alone farm them? What do those paths lead to, or do they just end out in the middle of nowhere? I want the base to look semi-functional and not just cover it all in flowers with no ways to reach any of them. At this point, I'm just in a make a decision and keep moving mode. If I stop to think about anything, I'll never finish on time. To be clear, it was never the plan to cover the entire flower forest with flowers or to completely change the landscape before I even placed the mud down, let alone the flowers. This is one of those examples of why you sometimes just need to get to work and do something whether you know what the end result is going to be when you start or not. If I knew what the finished product was at the beginning, I probably never would have started. It's very easy to get caught up in the internal dialogue of, should I do this? Should I do that? But what about this? Would this be better? Maybe I could. Sometimes you just need to silence the voices in your head and run with whatever the idea you have at the moment is. When you run into a new problem, adapt and keep moving. Adapt, decide, move on. Adapt, decide, move on. And eventually you'll start to see the progress you're making, and that progress will inspire you to keep going. At least that's how it works with me. And here we are, back at the house. The garden is finally complete, but before I show it, let's take a moment to do some before and after shots. This is what the base/garden area looked like when I joined AlphaCraft. Just an average, everyday flower forest with a couple of lava pools. Strange but true fact, when I chose this base location, I had no idea there was a flower forest down here. I liked the mountain peak behind me, and then I did nothing with it. But that's just how life works out sometimes. And here is what it looked like before I started on the garden roughly 1 month ago. You've got the tower, the bridge/nether portal over the ravine, but I really hadn't done much other than clear out the lava pools and add some basic farming down here. It really didn't get any love. And this is what it looks like now. I'm using the Bobby mod so we can see out to the mountain range to the south of the base. I think we can agree there's been a bit of a change. Let's take a look around, shall we? Just outside the front door, I decided to expand the melon and pumpkin fields on the farming side of the path. I like the color of the fields, and they make for a bit of a change to the wheat fields you normally see with farms. Walking down the main path, we can see I added azalea trees around the path as well as beehives on each of the trees to bring some sort of life to the flower farm. One of the random thoughts I had all season was that I would change out all the trees in the forest for azaleas, as they are a flowering tree and always seemed like the tree that should be growing here naturally. Out the other side of the tower, we can now see the path winds its way between these tulip fields as well as the tail end of the melon patch. All these happy guests, you see, were a very recent addition by some merry little prankster. I thought they added a bit of life to the place, so I harnessed them up and positioned them around the garden. This section here caused me the most issues. I think I reworked it 4 or 5 times before it finally became this. I think the path curvature on the map looks a lot more natural than it did in previous versions, and that raising the path up a couple of blocks allowed visitors a better view of the surrounding flower fields. I branched off this section of the path to wander past the wildflowers and little cherry blossom flowers that ends up at a glass viewing platform overlooking the ravine and waterfall at the western edge of the farm. I flooded the back section to add a little color and another waterfall. The path to this place was added to help break up the area on the world map, and the viewing platform gave the path some sort of purpose other than, the garden looks better with the path breaking things up. This section of path wraps around the field of orchids and takes us to the skeleton farm. I've surrounded the skeleton farm with a small patch of eye blossoms as if to say it somehow infected the ground around it. Hopefully, our friendly little bees will be smart enough to stay away from these flowers. To the south of the farm, we can see that I extended the cherry grove that was on top of the mountain down the side of it and filling in the bottom. It was just one of those random ideas I had that the garden would look better in this section if the hills behind it were pink versus being backed by a great big wall of dirt. I think it really does add to the overall effect. Further up the path, we find ourselves passing the fields of allium and cornflowers and ends up in yet another mini ravine in the garden surrounded by cactus flowers and pitcher plants. I actually had to cover up at least 3 other ravines when I was landscaping. There were just way too many of them. Off to the right is a large field of flowers that can only be fully appreciated on the map or in flight. I feel like I've been kind of a bad tour guide here. I keep talking about what I've done and not really showing it off very well. There's so much to look at, it's like my brain is suffering from target confusion. So let's do some sweeping drone footage shots of the garden. Roll that footage, editor man! Welcome back. I hope that little section explained better than I could all the work that went into the garden project in the last month. It was a lot bigger at the end than I thought I would do at the beginning. But that's the wonder of working on something that you're enjoying. I hope you enjoyed the video, and once the world download is available, maybe stop on by and see it in person. I'm really proud of it. Just stay away from the top of the hill. That section still has no love. If you're curious how many flowers were planted, the best guess I can give you is based on how much mud and muddy roots I placed. Well, then we'd be in the ballpark of 55,000. 55,000, yep. Oh, and before I forget, here's what the garden looks like on the world map. It's just swirl upon swirl of sherbet. The sections down here at the bottom that look like uncovered mud are actually pitcher plants. It's just that the mod has a little bug showing those at the moment. And in case you're wondering why I don't use a Minecraft map to show all this, that's because this is what a map shows. Mojang, you have a wonderful game here, but you can do better than this. But all that said, I think it's time we said our goodbyes to Season 5. I had a lot of fun this season and can only hope to have more in the season to come. So, for the last time on Season 5, I have been Gragore, and this has been AlphaCraft. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, always try and find a way to make it fun. See ya!